Sitelinks are one of the oldest ad extension types that we have available in the PPC platforms. They've been in the accounts as far back as I can remember since day one, starting in the PPC industry, and odds are probably since day one since you got in the industry as well. But it's something that we don't really talk about very much. We talk about keyword strategy, ad copy strategy, all this stuff all the time, but we don't really think about site links, even though whenever you go and Google something or Bing something, the ad shows up and then site links take up probably the same amount of space, if not sometimes even more than that. Sometimes they're double if you've got that big like 4-pack under your ad. That's a lot of space to take up for something that we don't talk about very often. So today I'm going to hopefully remedy that a little bit and give you some strategies for what type of text you can put in your site links, how to decide what actually goes in them, how to make sure that they're mapping correctly to the keywords, campaigns, ad groups that you have in your account so they can be as relevant as possible to the user. And then lastly, looking at the performance data of the site links themselves, making sure that we're optimizing toward the ones that are performing best and seeing the results that we want, and taking out the ones that aren't doing well. Let's hop in. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is give you a look at what site links can look like in the search engines. So the first couple examples I have here are for Google Ads. And the two areas that are highlighted in the green boxes now are both versions of site links. The ones on the bottom are more the traditional version of site links where there's only a headline one that is being shown up and there's a link to each of them. So find projects by state is a single site link, construction bids, search thousands of leads, and sign up today are all individual site links. Same thing for the top, but it's a little bit more clear in this Nike ad which ones are different site links. It's almost like they put an entire new ad unit in place. You still only have one headline, but there is a description to accompany. Looking at Microsoft, pretty much the same thing for the most part. Each of these individual areas are site links. So again, the one on the bottom is a little bit more the traditional, kind of the 5-10 years ago version of site links. And then kind of as we move up, it's the more expanded version, the ones that are taking up a little bit more space. But you'll notice that the bottom two are still only really using the H1 because home remodeling quotes and contractors in that ad in the middle, those are two separate site links that are sending you to different landing pages. Just keep that in mind that this is effectively what your site links can look like on the different engines. But while we're here, let's also talk about the content that we have in the site links versus the ad itself. In the first ad, I just typed in women's Nike shoes. Nordstrom came up. In the headline of the ad itself, it says Nike shoes, shop Nike up to 70% off. Pretty relevant. But then below that, some of the site links are talking about browse spring styles or spring trends shop. Both of those in my mind are kind of doing the same thing. They're probably trying to test which version of spring messaging works the best. But this is kind of helping to elaborate the different segments within Nike shoes. Maybe there are spring trends or spring styles within the Nike department that they can send me to. I think that Google probably actually does a better job of showing what the Nike shoes ad looks like. So here, again, I typed in women's Nike shoes. There is a site link that says new women's shoes, so new things that are coming out. But then there's also best-selling shoes, new markdowns, looking at a sale department. And then there's a kids section, which quite frankly doesn't really translate to me. That's kind of a mismatch, if you will. But they're using these to help find a further breakdown in the ads where people might want to go instead of going just to the original landing page that was part of the ad itself. So that's one way you can use site links to send somebody further in your site than maybe what you would use in the ad message itself. So if somebody is searching for women's Nike shoes, maybe you want to send them to a section that talks about women's running shoes versus basketball shoes versus sandals, something like that. Different segmentations to send people further into categories that they might actually be looking for. They just didn't quite search for that. The second set down here is just around contractors. I think I just typed in local contractors. So the ad that came up says construction bids, find projects in your area. Since I typed in local, that's great. But then the site links are talking about find projects by state, construction bids, sign up today, all these different things. If you're not selling different products like Nike would be with all these different shoes, it might help to make somebody comfortable with your company to give them more information about how they can engage with you. And this is another one where I actually think Bing had a few better options because this remodeling estimate ad in the middle talks about get a quote or get cost estimates, something along those lines. Whereas whereas the bottom one talks about kitchens versus bathrooms versus fixing damages versus basements. There's a lot of different segmentations of how this handyman can help. Again, similar to the e-commerce piece with the Nike shoes that we talked about, it's a further segmentation of a very general search that helps people find more of what they're looking for at a glance, as opposed to clicking on the main headline in your ad and then having to find their way to the bathroom section of your contractor website. The only thing you need to keep in mind with site links is that in each of the different packs that show up, there will only be one instance of a single URL on your site. So let's say the Browse Spring Styles site link that we see in the top ad is sending you to one URL. That spring trends shop has to send a user to a different URL. You need to make sure that you have lots of different landing pages to send people to, because Google and Microsoft will only show one instance of each landing page that you're using for a site link. If you want to test different versions of messaging like Nordstrom is for the spring trends, you'll need to have different URLs if you want those to show up at the same time. You can have two separate versions of the site link with the same URL, but they'll only show one at a time, so keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and hop into the interfaces and talk about how we can start to set up our site links and start to optimize. In Google Ads, you'll come over to the Ads and Extensions section, click on Extensions. This is just a placeholder account, so there's really nothing here, to be quite honest, so don't take these as best practices of what things should look like. But you can start to see that when you are landed here, you'll see the different extensions that are set up. There will be an extension type, and you can see that we've got site links here, and this is a lead form extension that we used for another video. If we want to start adding extensions, we can easily come up here to the blue plus button, open up, click site link extension, and then you'll be added into this builder where you can see that you can add up to 4 site links at a time by default. You can also add more site links if you want to, so you can keep adding and add a 5th one and so on and so forth. The first thing I want to talk about though is this add to section, and we need to keep this in mind because it matters as to which site links are going to show for which campaigns and ad groups in our account. You can see that it's defaulted to account, but if you click the drop down, it'll say campaign and ad group. Basically what this means is you want to add something to a certain level within your account. So let's hop back into PowerPoint real quick. You can set up site links at the account, campaign, and ad group level, but remember, the further you go down in this hierarchy, the more specific your site links will get. If you have account level site links set up and you're using them as kind of a catch-all in your account, remember that if you set up ad group level site links for a specific ad group, your account level site links will not show because they're going to pull from those ad group level specific site links. It's important to know what level you're choosing when setting up site links, because they either will or will not show based on this hierarchy that you have in place. So back in the Google account, I'm just going to set this up for the account level. I'm going to set up some really basic site link text here. I'm not even going to fill in the descriptions because, quite frankly, it's just for an example. We'll just create another one. And you can notice that the description lines say recommended. You don't have to have these, and it'll show up just as you're seeing over here on the right, where it just says site link 3, site link 4, and then any of the placeholder pieces. Like I said, for sake of example, I'm just going to come down here and click save. Okay, so now those extensions are saved and you can see them in here. If we want to hop into Bing, I can show you the same process. When you're in the Bing interface, it'll start you off probably in the Campaigns tab, but you just want to hop over here to Add Extensions. I already have this view filtered for site links, but you can filter it for whichever one you want. And then the same thing with the hierarchy that we talked about. We've got account, campaign, and ad group level. So when you create an ad extension, you can see that there are already some set up in the account, but you would just click on this little blue link down here at the bottom to add new site link extension. And then you'd add your text, description, final URL, all that good stuff here, and click save. But since I don't have one, I'm going to hit cancel. And then since we were in the account level section, this is where it would save, but we'll click out of this for the time being. If we want to set something up at a campaign level, pretty simple, just click on campaign or ad group and you can create ad extensions. It'll then prompt you to choose which campaign you want to set things up for. So here I'll just click brand, done. And then I can either choose from the site links that are already in here, or again, I can create a new extension. Hopping back into Google, we have all of these different site links already set up in here. Obviously they don't have any clicks or impressions to them, but one thing that I do want to show in Google that is a little bit different setup than what is in Bing is this drop down over here that says extensions view. You can click this drop down and it'll also have an associations view. Effectively, extensions view is all of the extensions that are within the account, no matter what they are assigned to, whereas associations will show you which portion of your account something is associated with. So I want to hop into an account that actually has some performance in here so we can see what that looks like. So here we can see that we are still in extension extensions view, and there are lots of different extensions shown. There are different types that are available here, but it's showing one line per each extension and the performance that comes with it. If I were to then click associations view, now my performance is broken out, and you can see that there is a little bit more breakdown here. So extension, and it says account, and that it's set up at the account level, and then you can see the performance for these site links at the account level. But in the next section here, we've got this new campaign CSS, and the level column now says campaign, and there's no performance here, but each of these site links performance is broken out by the performance that it accrued only within this campaign. You can see down here that there are more campaigns that have the same site links available to them. So you would actually be able to see how this About Us link performed in this campaign versus the second campaign that we have down here. So you can actually see which site links are performing best by each individual campaign that they're in. Similarly, in Bing, you can see that we're in the campaign tab, and there will actually just be a column that shows which campaign each site link is associated with, but there will be site links that are the same and their data is broken out by different campaigns. So you can see that these two that I've just checked, those are the exact same site link, but they're showing different line items because they are part of different campaigns. So you can see the performance at that campaign level. Same thing would go for ad groups. It would show exactly the same, except this column here, there would still be campaign, but there will be a secondary column that also says ad group, and that'll tell you which ad group it's associated with. The last piece of analysis that I want to show you is a way to optimize your site links a little bit beyond just which one is performing better within each account, campaign, or ad group. This is specific to Google. Bing does not have this option, but if you hop up into segment and you click this section down here, this extension versus other. Now this breaks down the data for each of the different site links in a little different manner. So there are two new lines, this extension versus other, which is why they named this segment what they did. Basically, this extension line means this is the performance that this exact site link received. So it received 38 impressions, 0 clicks, so it has no additional stats to it. Other means what was the performance of the ad as a whole when this site link was shown, whether it was engaged with or not. Basically, there were 38 impressions when the site link was shown, which the impression count will always be the same between these two lines, but the ad unit, whether it was the headline of the ad, a different site link extension, maybe one of the other engaging ad extensions, the ad itself was clicked 8 times and it had a 21% click-through rate. Using these two different metrics, you can start to see, one, how each extension actually has people engaging with it. The volume in this account is very low, so there's not a ton to go on, but imagine that you had lots of performance coming through, your site links were getting lots of clicks. You can actually choose which site link to let run in the same way you would with ad copy tests, based on the actual conversion performance that it has, the click performance that it has, and optimize in the same way you would an ad copy test. You can also incorporate the fact that a site link might have an impact on performance of your ads, even though it wasn't engaged with. So this top one that we see here, the click-through rate when this site link was shown was 21%, whereas when this third one down here was shown, it's only 19.5%. That's not to say that this site link was the only reason that that ad had a 2 percentage point or a 1.5 percentage point higher click-through rate, but it certainly does lend itself to the fact that even though this site link itself might not get the click, there must be some sort of messaging that's helping people feel like they're in the right place and ends them up clicking on either the headline or a different site link or something and still coming to your site. So even if you don't have actual performance on the site link itself, you still can see how it's impacting the overall ad unit and making your account perform either better, worse. It gives you a new point of optimization beyond just saying whatever type of language you want and hoping that people find it valuable. And that's it. Hopefully this got you thinking a little bit more about site links given the prominent placement they have in the results pages, and you're no longer going to just put together a set of 2, 4, 6 of them and just set it and forget it. They can have a lot bigger impact on performance than that if you pay attention to them. Make sure that the text in them is actually relevant to the user. Send them to pages on your site that are useful based on the queries they typed in, and you're optimizing performance based on the ones that are working. Thanks for watching our video. If you thought it was useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to get notified of when a new one comes out, be sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel.